everybody? It's Kelsee Brianna J, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about the worst products of 2018. In 2018, we had the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, and so what we're going to focus on are the latter two. So let's talk about some products that, in my opinion, weren't so great. If these are some of your favorite products, hey, we all like different things, different strokes for different folks, but they just didn't cut it for me. So for this video, I'm going to be inserting pictures because I do not like to keep products that I absolutely hate in my collection. That's my personal preference. I'd rather throw it away than look at something that I despise. So I'm just gonna go ahead and scoot over. So let's start off with foundations. The first product that made the cut is the YSL Touche Eclat All-in-One Glow Foundation. And I was very excited about this foundation. I love a good glow. Cut into me going into the store trying to find a color, and all of the medium toned colors looked like mustard. So I tried it out. I got a sample and I was like, nah. I don't know what YSL was thinking when they created those colors. I don't know who those colors were supposed to be suited for, but it definitely wasn't me. And it definitely wasn't anybody darker than me because it was actually laughable at how bad the color range was for that foundation. The actual products felt decent, but I just couldn't get past that yellow, dirty tinge of a color that they created and said that that's what I'm supposed to wear. The next foundation that makes the cut is the Marc Jacobs Shameless Youthful Look 24-Hour Foundation. And this foundation was so bad. It didn't look good on me. When I was applying it, it smelled like bubbles, and I was just shocked at how weird it smelled and how weird it wore. When it first went on, it was okay, but then as the day went on, it just started getting ugly. It made me feel uncomfortable. It was like separating. It was too oily. The consistency of this foundation was just downright weird. Like, I've never felt a foundation like that. It just felt plastic, possibly, I think is the texture that I'm remembering. I just was not here for that foundation. I don't know. I have combination skin, and applying that foundation, it was just weird. I don't know who it's geared towards, because for drier skin types, it's just gonna dry up, and for oily skin types, it's just gonna slip off, and for combination, it did somewhat of both. I just wasn't feeling it, and it definitely made this list for a reason. The foundation that I hate the most ever, okay, I despise this foundation so much. Number 1 is thick. Number 2 is thick. Number 3 is still thick. It's thick, thick, thick. Number 4, that smell. It's so strong. When you put it on your face, you cough. Number 5. Number 5. My skin broke out so bad after wearing this foundation in the little bit of time that I did to test it. Like maybe twice, maybe 3 times. So I think a lot of you all may know what I'm referring to. If you don't, let me refresh your memory. The Huda Beauty Faux Filter Foundation. I hated that foundation so badly that I almost was like, you know what? I'm done with her. But I gave her another chance. Her other products aren't as bad. I actually really liked the powder that she came out with, even though it still was very strong. Nothing is more strong than that foundation. I have cleaning products in my house that aren't as strongly scented as that foundation. I don't know what the heck she put in that, but all I know is that it will never touch my skin again. It will never, ever touch my skin again. So, and the next and last foundation that I have that I hated this year is the Burberry Fresh Glow Stick Foundation. And I really wanted to like this foundation really, really bad, because when I was applying it, it was really, really stiff and it was dragging my skin and I was not feeling it. And then I was like, okay, after I had it on for a few hours, I was like, maybe it looks okay. But then I would go in another light and I looked like a zombie because it turned my skin gray. But then I would look in another light and it was like, oh, maybe it's kind of cute. But the final verdict was when I took a picture, I looked flat. I looked dull and just bleak. And I was like, this foundation is a shapeshifter. I'm not feeling it. Like, why does it look so different depending on which light I'm in? And overall, I just didn't like the texture of it. It felt heavy, but at the same time, it was lightweight. But the main weird thing was that it was so gray. Like, I made it work, but I don't want to have to make things work on that level. I just want them to either work or they don't. So those are all my foundations. I have one concealer that I really didn't like this year, and I didn't like this concealer so much that I did a video on it and I didn't even post it. This is the Becca Ultimate Coverage Longwear Concealer, and I really contemplated posting that video up until maybe like last month, and I was like, you know what? Nah, I hated that concealer. It made my under eye look so thick and crepey and dry. It looked like I could just take, you know, a snow scraper and just chisel it off my face. It was just really bad. It creased under my eyes. It dried out. It went on and it was kind of creamy, but the way that it set and the way that it wore, it was one of the worst concealers that I've ever tried. And I was really shocked because Becca has done complexion products really well in the past. So for them to come through with that, I was like, maybe they're having a hard time right now. They're trying out something new, but it's just not working out for them. I didn't even post the video because I did not want images of me out in the universe looking like that. Like that's, yeah, it was that bad. I felt like Becca was going through puberty this year. You know, they started out really cute as kids, and then people started to notice them. And then they grew up to be preteens, and now they're transitioning from preteens to being teenagers. And it was a struggle this year. I hated this powder. It made me look so ashy. Like if I wanted to go as a corpse for Halloween, I could put that powder on and it would look like I got the life sucked out of me. It looked like on Hocus Pocus when the Sanderson sisters were sucking the life out of people. That's what my skin looks like when I had that powder on. I am not exaggerating. It was absolutely horrid. I'm gonna leave them alone. I don't have anything else Becca on the list, but those were two big misses for me. The next powder that I absolutely despised is the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Powder, and I hated the way this powder smelled, number one. It smelled like old gym socks that had been in a capsule. You guys know back in the day when we used to put stuff in capsules and bury it and be like, we're gonna dig it back up. Did you all used to do that in elementary school? Because I did. But you know how you put stuff in a capsule and say you're gonna dig it up years and years later, and then you finally did, and then you pulled it out and you smelled it. Whoo, that stinks. That's what that powder smelled like. It was so putrid. The smell was just absolutely offensive. I don't care what ingredient it did or didn't, or maybe should have, or whatever. I didn't like that smell. I don't even care what the powder did. The smell was just too much for me. They were like, well, it's good for your skin. I'd rather not have it. I don't care. I'd rather not put any powder if I have to put a powder on that smells like that. Now let's move on to cheek products. So the cheek category consists of highlighters, bronzers, and blushes. And let's kick it off with the Hourglass Vanish Highlighter Stick. And this product was a product that I thought was going to be so fire, because Hourglass does complexion products like super well. But when I tried this product and I put it on my face, it didn't do anything. It was like it was melting into my skin, and not in a good way. It was literally melting into my skin to the point where I couldn't even see it. And so it was pretty pointless for me to have it on. And I'm like, you know, I could get similar results with just rubbing Vaseline on my face, and it would probably look the same, or it might even look a little bit more intensified. That product was just absolutely wasteful. Everybody was like, you know, different colors is going to do different things. I went to the store and swatched all of the colors. I think it's like 5. I swatched all of them, and all of them did the same thing, or either were too light or way too dark. So it was just a pass for me. Next, I'm going to categorize this product in this category because it's a highlighter, even though they called it a foundation. And that is the MAC Hyper Real Glow Foundation / highlighter products. So this is an ultimate fail for me because I'm an old school MAC head. I remember MAC from back in the day, in MAC's glory days. And so when they said they were coming back with a staple product that they discontinued years ago, I was so excited. And I was like, you know what, MAC? You're going to come back. Don't call it a comeback. So I'm excited for them. I'm like, this is going to be their moment to redeem themselves. Everybody is kind of off MAC, and everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I left MAC, because they are going to go crazy over this foundation. What a missed opportunity, because MAC did not actually come out with that foundation. They called it the same name as the actual foundation that they used to have back in the day, but it actually wasn't that. It was like the highlighter that went into the foundation. So I'm like, why would they get everybody's hopes up to get the Hyper Real foundation back, like the true OG foundation, only to give us this weak liquid highlighter that does nothing when you mix it with another product. And then if you try to use it like a highlighter, it doesn't do anything because it's not pigmented enough. It just was a disappointment, and MAC, you missed the opportunity to come back. I've said it once, I'll say it again. MAC, if you ever want to contact me and utilize me for my services to get you back on track, I know what to do to get you back popping in these streets. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. That's all I'm saying. The next failure of a product that I hated in 2018 is the Dior Contour palette. This came out in their Dior Backstage collection, and this palette was so dry. It was not versatile. I couldn't use it. It was way too light, and it overall wasn't really pretty on my complexion. It reminded me a lot of winter dirt. You know, in every season the dirt changes, and that's why plants are able to grow and flourish in certain seasons, and in other seasons they die. This palette reminded me of the dirt of death, because you all know how winter dirt in most climates is pretty dry and it's crumbly, and it kind of feels just like dust. That's what that palette looks like to me. A palette full of dirty winter dry dirt dust. Now let's move on to eyeshadow palettes, because eyeshadow palettes are products that are going to continue to come out, because that is the beauty community's favorite product to buy. That's why companies keep pushing them, and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they just get it really wrong, as I'm about to explain in this category. So the first palette that I hated in 2018 is the NARS Ignited palette. And I am just as shocked as you are that I have a NARS palette as my first palette that I hated in 2018. And I think that I hate it so much because NARS has been killing it for about the last year and a half. So consistently killing it. I know every palette and every product is not going to be a home run, but I really expected this one to be. But for whatever reason with this palette, I feel like they changed the formulation of the eyeshadows. These eyeshadows were crumbly, they were very gritty, they weren't smooth, they weren't pigmented. It was just like a palette full of cardboard. It was like a display palette. You all know how sometimes you get tricked at a makeup counter. They have like a little display makeup piece and it looks like it's the real thing. You're like rubbing it like, why is this not coming off? That's what I feel like they sent me, even though I know they sent me a real palette. In my mind, it's a display palette. That's what I'm going to go with, because I know NARS wouldn't mess up like that, because NARS's reformulation of their eyeshadows and blush and highlight products, like, they've killed the game with that. And so for them to just like disregard that and say, hey, we're just going to try something new, it kind of just blows my mind. Like, why did you do that? Plus, I didn't really care for the colors. Like, the colors on me are not complimentary. All of them just looked taupe. They just all looked blah. It looked like I put a black and white filter on my eye only whenever I did my eye look, and it was just like dull. Natasha Denona, please stop making mini palettes, please. Because you do not give the same quality as you do with the larger size palettes. So don't have people running around here thinking that that's how your eyeshadows are, because that's what people are going to think. They're going to be like, oh, I have Natasha Denona eyeshadows. They're not all that. They are all that. Those aren't all that. And I feel like that is tarnishing the brand, and I don't want her to continue to come out with these palettes that are so mediocre that it's just like, what's the point? What you need to do, Natasha, is come out with singles. Let everybody buy and make their own customized palettes. And that way people will be more likely to actually try it, because the thing is that a lot of people do not want to invest upwards of $150 for a palette of colors that they may not even like. She released 3 mini palettes. She only got 1 right. The mini Lila was good, but that mini Star and that mini Sunset, child. Okay, I hated this palette. The Urban Decay Naked Cherry palette. And I hated it because I felt like the eyeshadow colors were just too dull. I hate when colors are like that. Like, I know all eyeshadow palettes cannot just be bold and vibrant, because not everybody wants to wear those colors. I get that. Like, I get it. But those right there, it's like they took every color that they had and mixed it with gray and said, here, go ahead and go with that. I feel like the concept was cute, but the execution was on mute. The last palette that I really didn't like this year was the Charlotte Tilbury Luxury Palette of Pops palette in Supersonic. And you all saw me in that video. I really tried really hard to make that palette work. And that palette was very gritty. It wasn't very opaque. So I was trying my hardest to get some color payoff, and it just wasn't paying off. That one had to make the list because that palette is expensive for it not to have any pigmentation to it. That was foolish. Lip products. I'm going to start off this list with the Dominique Cosmetics lip glosses. So these lip glosses looked really pretty. I don't know how they messed them up in the way that they did. I feel like these lip glosses were pretty cheaply made. I feel like they weren't of high quality. They didn't smell good, and they didn't really give a lot of color payoff. So they definitely have to go in the fails. One more lip product, and that is the MAC Powder Kiss lipsticks. I was expecting like Pat McGrath matte lipsticks, but like a little bit more matte and a little bit more powdery. So almost like a kohl type lipstick. And what I ended up getting is like, I can't even describe that feeling. The lipstick was weird. I will say that. It's not like anything else that I could compare it to. It felt very soft, and then when I licked my lips, the lipstick came off. And I had people in my comment section like, I don't lick my lips. And it's like, yes you do. It's like when you naturally talk, your lips are moist. So like the center of your lip is going to get moist no matter what you do. So that was just a demonstration showing you, like, if you wore it all day and you were talking, the lipstick is definitely going to come off in the center very fast. So those lipsticks were not well formulated. I thought they were going to be much cooler than they were. They definitely fooled me because they were horrible. And as far as brushes, I really feel like MAC dropped the ball on their synthetic brushes. I feel like MAC could have done their synthetic brushes so much better just because they've been pioneers in the brush game for so long. So for them to come through and switch their regular brushes, which are just staples in my collection, as well as other brush collectors' collections, to these mediocre, very cheaply made synthetic brushes and keep them at the same price was pretty much a slap in the face to those of us who have supported them and collected their brushes for years. These synthetic brushes, it's like they put no thought behind it. They were like, okay, it kind of looks like the same shape, so just go ahead and release it. And it was like, how do you expect your artists at the counter who use these brushes all the time, how do you expect them to sell it or actually use it on clients whenever you want them to do makeup applications? You know that 217 is nowhere near like the other 217. You know that. You know that 239 does not feel like that 239. So who are you trying to fool? I need you all to go back to the drawing board and get a higher quality of synthetic hairs, because the ones that you have, no, I have better synthetic hair brushes from the drugstore. So the last category that I have to talk to you all about is collections, and that is just the overall collections that companies have launched that I felt like were ultimate failures. The first one is not necessarily a collection, but it's just a line. So I guess it's a collection, maybe a makeup line, a makeup brand, if you will. That is Flesh Beauty. Flesh Beauty jumped out of the gate all wrong. Like, they came through with the Flesh Firm Thick Stick. I don't know if they thought people were going to think it was cute, but it wasn't. On top of it being called the Firm Flesh Thick Stick, it also felt like a thick stick on your face. I don't know where they were going with that. I am so surprised they are still standing in Ulta. I want to see how long they're going to last with that foundation name. But aside from that, mostly all of the other products that I tried from their line were pretty. Next is a collection that I was very, very, very disappointed in. That is the MAC Aaliyah collection. I feel like they could have chosen more things that looked better in the collection. I know that they said that they had her brother working on the collection and her former makeup artist working with them for the collection, but the pieces just seemed dated. The packaging didn't seem cool. It just didn't feel like anything that Aaliyah would select if she were still living. The pieces that they selected for this collection just kind of felt like leftover things that they had from other collections that possibly didn't sell, and then they were like, you know what, let's go in and repackage it, and we'll just sell it as the Aaliyah collection, and her fans will buy it because they're nostalgic for her and they're just big fans. I actually cried about that collection because I wanted it to be so much more than it was, and it just wasn't that. So over it. But the last collection that I really hated, and I know a lot of you all wanted me to get pieces from it to do a video, that is the Tom Ford Extreme collection. And I know you all are like, what? Call the police. Kelsee has Tom Ford in her worst video? I do. I love Tom Ford, but that doesn't mean he's exempt from getting on this list. Nobody's safe. Tom Ford the brand is going through a transitional period. I can feel it. You all can feel it. I see them doing things that they've never done before. And I'm not opposed to change, but I am opposed to change if that means that it's going to sacrifice the quality. I feel like this collection was pretty blah. I feel like the eyeshadows that were launched in this collection weren't pigmented, and then like each eyeshadow was probably like $40. I wasn't here for it. I just felt like it was all mediocre, but it was at luxury prices. So that's everything that I absolutely despised for the year of 2018. I know that there are going to be so many more products that come out in 2019 that I am either going to equally hate or hate more than I did this year. So let me know what products you did not enjoy this year. What made your worst of beauty for 2018? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. I look forward to reading them. If you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to you all in my very next one. Smooches. Bye.